Hey guys, Alex from Board Game Co. here, and today we have another collection update, this time for February. I know these videos are, coming a month late. Hopefully I'll eventually catch up. But for now, we just have around 8 or 9 games down here that are leaving my collection in March, but from February, and I'm going to give a quick overview of each one, why it's leaving, how I feel about it, all the usual stuff. So to begin with, we have a cheat. Unlock is leaving my collection because I played it. This is Unlock, the Island of Dr. Gorse. This is one of the most interesting unlocks I've played to date, actually. This is a tiny spoiler, very, very tiny, but you start off this unlock with the the group of people separates into 2 groups, and you each start off with your own deck. And you can't talk, you can't communicate. It was very, very interesting. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I love the Unlock series. Again, this is a fake one. I'm not really getting rid of it, but I'm getting rid of it. So read into that how you will. From there, we have one a little more serious series. This is Underwater Cities. Underwater Cities was a great game. Played it once, thought it was pretty good, but kind of preferred Terraforming Mars. Played it again, still prefer Terraforming Mars. It was a thoroughly enjoyable game. If anyone ever pulled it out, I'd happily play it. At the moment, though, I don't see the need to play it myself, given the fact that I drastically prefer Terraforming Mars. I actually have this one coming up in a comparison video with Terraforming Mars, and I may have just spoiled which one I prefer, so shh, don't tell anyone. From there, we have Alhambra Beatbox. Alhambra Beatbox is one that makes me very sad. This has been in my collection for a long time, a long time, since I don't know the exact year, but I want to say somewhere around 2014. It is a great game. It's an enjoyable game. It came into my collection along with Carcassonne Big Box, but Carcassonne Big Box stayed, and this one has not. And that's primarily because while Carcassonne Big Box is much more accessible, much more family friendly, it's a light game to pull out and just lay some tiles, have some fun. Alhambra requires just that extra degree of strategy that makes it not a good fit for my game night. It's way too light for my game night, but it's also not a good fit for just casually pulling out, at least not for me. I'm sure for many people it is. This is a very good game. It survived so many culls of my collection because of nostalgia, because of how much I tell myself I like it, but in reality it hasn't seen play in roughly 3-4 years, and I don't know when it will see play next. I'm still torn up about it. Honestly, the fact that I'm putting this in the video is a bit of a commitment to actually get rid of it this time, because this has gone onto my trade list again and again, and each time I pull it out before I ship the games to the warehouse. So this is a tough one, but it's time to say goodbye. Con Marie, thank you for all the good things and the joy you brought. From there, we have Paladins of the West Kingdom. Paladins of the West Kingdom continues my trend of liking but not keeping Garphill games. Garphill? I always say grapple. I want to say grapple, but it's always Garphill games. I always want to keep those games, and I always enjoy those games, but none have actually made it to the point where I'm willing to keep it. Hopefully with Viscounts of the West Kingdom coming up next, I'll give it a try. Again, they're always good. They're always enjoyable. I find these have a similar place in my collection, in my mind, as Jamie Stegmaier games, in the sense that they are always so close to being a game that I want to keep, that I keep trying them. They're not bad games. They're not games, well, they're for sure not bad games. They're critically lauded on both counts. I mean, both them and Stonemaier games, everyone loves these games. But speaking for myself, for my own collection, they always fall just in that cusp of being enjoyable enough that I want to like the next one. I'm going to give the next one a try. Maybe that next one will just have just enough to pull me in. Paladins of the West Kingdom was the closest to sticking around compared to any of the games until this one. It was heavier and meatier in a way that I thoroughly enjoyed, and the interplay felt more rewarding than any of his other games. At the end of the day, for me, there was just a thematic disconnect. It kind of felt like all the ways things interplayed, and they did interplay well, don't get me wrong, but it felt like the way those things interplayed was because they were designed to interplay together, and not because it felt natural. Nothing about the game felt like, well, of course I'm getting this to make that to do this. That just seems like logical. Nothing felt logical. It just felt like, well, this has to interplay with that, and that that has to interplay with that in order to build an engine. It was a beautiful engine, don't get me wrong, but when I'm playing a game like, well, I mean, I don't want to give examples in case I'm wrong offhand, but I'm playing other games, I don't feel that thematic let's say Food Chain Magnate. If I'm playing Food Chain Magnate, everything I'm doing makes sense. Everything ties together, makes sense to me. When I'm playing, I don't know what else I have on my shelf, Concordia, all these things make sense. When I'm playing Paladins of the West Kingdom, it feels like they designed a beautiful engine, but nothing connected to me. Nothing felt like it flowed. So ultimately, thoroughly enjoyable, not keeping. Good isn't good enough. From there, we have Mezzo. I believe I pronounced this incorrectly. In my last video, I did Mezo. I believe it's called Mezzo, if I'm getting that right this time. Mezzo, if you've watched some of my other videos, if you've watched my Blood Rage versus Mezzo video, I'll link up there. It was good. It was very enjoyable. This guy, I mean, honestly, most of these games are enjoyable, but it was an enjoyable game. Had a lot of fun, great area control, great interplay, great fighting, all that stuff was good. At the end of the day, the competition for this kind of genre in my collection is steep. Between Blood Rage, between Rising Sun, between Cyclades, Kemet, Innis, there are so many amazing games that hold that spot in my collection of incredible interplay in a fighting game, and area control, dynamic powers, everything. It's a very, very tough spot in my collection to fill, to compete in, and while Mezzo was enjoyable, it did not do a good enough job competing, at least for me. So sadly, it joins the pile of the trade list for this month, for February. From there, we have Point Salad. Point Salad is the closest thing I can say on today's group of games that I just didn't enjoy that much, honestly. I was looking forward to it. It looked like a fun little game. It was never going to be a huge contender for Award of the Year for me, but I was hoping it would fall into that same niche as For Sale, as High Society, those style of games, No Thanks, something fun and light to pull out. I gave it a shot, but I think my biggest problem with it was that there was no ability to even remotely plan ahead. Everything you did was always in the moment because the game kept changing so quickly. You want to build up, the basic crux of the game is you're constantly choosing between taking things that earn you points from fulfilling sets versus things that score you points for having sets. So you want to get enough point cards that reward you and enough cards that fulfill those points that you actually win. The problem is the cards are changing so fast that there's really no planning. I don't feel I made a single interesting decision the entire game. It was really just, well, that's the obvious pick, well, that's the obvious pick, well, that's the there was no decision to be made. It was nothing interesting. I think it probably fills a great spot in a collection for people who are looking for a game to introduce others to gaming. But ultimately, this is no different than War to me. The lack of any meaningful decision is no different to me than the lack of any decision. Giving people the ability to pretend to choose is not different than giving people no choice whatsoever. It is probably a great introduction to game mechanics, but for me, wasn't enjoyable. I was very disappointed by this one, unfortunately. Second last but not least, we have Rivet Wars. Now, Rivet Wars is actually a giant collection I got for my daughter a while ago. This was when I first started getting into CMON games, like heavily, not just casually, but heavily into CMON games, maybe about 2 years ago or so. I got Rivet Wars, played it with my daughter. She and I really enjoyed the tactical back and forth. It was light enough to be accessible to my then 7-year-old daughter, and it was heavy enough to be, well, not heavy, but it was tactical enough that I still found it enjoyable. We played a bunch. We ended up getting all the expansions, basically, which was a mistake. I mean, they played with the miniatures, so not that much of a mistake. But in the end, it hasn't been pulled out in quite some time. About 5-6 months ago, I asked my daughter if she wants to get rid of it. She's like, no, I still want to keep it. And last month, I asked if she wants to get rid of it. She's like, I'm ready to get rid of it. I think part of that, by the way, is she was excited about Marvel United coming up. Marvel United is also going to be looks like it's going to be a lighter game that's simultaneously enjoyable enough for me, but light enough to enjoy with my kids. So she said Marvel United will take this place. So even though Marvel United is still at least a year out, all that controversy and drama around it anyway, but nonetheless, Rivet Wars is sadly going away, but it was enjoyable for the multitude of games that we played while it lasted. Last, and most disappointingly, I think, for me, is Lord of the Rings Journey in Middle-earth. I will not be doing a review video on this because I didn't even finish the game, which is going to upset people. I'm sorry, the dislike button is right down below. You can go ahead and dislike this video because I'm telling you I didn't enjoy this after not finishing it. I apologize in advance. I played this, so let me start with a backtrack. First of all, game is well received. People love this game. As usual, when I give my own negative opinion from me, from my own whatever, against a game that is lauded and loved by many people, take my opinion with a grain of salt. Take it as one data point amongst many. It's all it's meant to be. It's just meant to be my experience, my truth, or what have you. It's not meant to be a criticism against this, which is a game that people enjoy. For me, I was walking in with a bias, which unfortunately that bias was, I don't know, a self-fulfilling prophecy or what have you. But the bias is I have not enjoyed app games historically. There have been some exceptions. Exceptions would include things like One Night Ultimate Werewolf, where the app is barely the game. It's just there to keep track of things. Another exception would be Chronicles of Crime, where I did enjoy the way I eventually got rid of Chronicles of Crime, but I enjoyed the app and the way they handled that. That one did not take me out of the experience. In fact, it really added to the experience. In Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, which was also critically acclaimed, that's another game. I got that a while ago. I set it up. I tried playing it. Didn't get through even one game. The app just took me out of the experience so much that I felt like if I want to play a video game, I'll play a video game, and if I want to play a board game, I'll play a board game. Don't make me do this tedious back and forth hybrid of the two where I feel like punch something to the app, look at the game. Punch something to the app, look at the game. And again, I am the exception here, for sure. Not the only exception, but I'm definitely an exception. Both this and Mansions of Madness are loved by so many people. For me, Lord of the Rings, I set it up. I was hoping that the theme, I love Lord of the Rings, my wife loves Lord of the Rings. I was hoping that the theme would pull me into the game in a way that Mansions of Madness didn't. And it didn't. It just didn't. I set it up, did the whole thing, read the whole rulebook, started the game, and I went through, I think I was close to finishing the first scenario before I finally gave up, but I went through the scenario, and every single thing I did was just punch the app, go back to the game. Punch something to the app, go back to the game. Oh wait, we have to add new tokens to the board. Let me go to an encounter. Scary, fog, shadows, get 1 inspiration. Next. Slip down a thing, gain 1 inspiration. Everything was just a test, followed by not the interplay, followed by the tediousness, the homeworkness of punching things into the app just so you can go back to the game. It didn't even, when I play games on Yucata or play online board games, at least they have the decency to track everything for me. This felt like this weird hybrid where I don't know enough to really invest myself in the game, but I can't control things and the app's not really controlling. It felt like homework. It felt like homework. I think I would have enjoyed this a lot had it just been a board game. The actual gameplay seemed fairly interesting. The deck building of your skills and how you have to slowly over multiple plays, build up a better deck, build up equipment, build up better things so that when you pull, you're constantly prepping your characters by choosing which skill goes back into your deck to apply to skill tests and which card you're going to take out to help you in the game. That part felt really interesting. I feel like the app does a great job introducing a game like this to people who don't want to read a 30-page rulebook and know what's going on. I am not the target audience for that. I have no problem reading a 30-page rulebook. I like walking into a game knowing what the rules are. I hate walking into a game kind of relying on an app to guide me through that experience while I kind of have to rely on it without being able to know everything myself. I have to constantly check the reference thing, constantly pull I'm going on a lot. This is not staying in my collection. Hopefully someone else will enjoy it. Again, dislike button is down below for not even finishing the game. Preferably you'll like the video, you'll comment, you'll tell me how amazing it is. But if you want to dislike, I understand. Opinions can be frustrating as much as they can be validating. That's basically it. Those are the games leaving my collection in March, but for February. Like I said, these videos are a month behind. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you are not as frustrated by all the games I'm getting rid of. Again, keep in mind, I like a lot of games. For every game I get rid of, it's usually because another game stuck around. It's usually because another game replaced it. My shelves are never, my shelves are not getting smaller. The amount of games in my collection are constantly going up because something better is always coming along. Something more appealing is coming along, and I am always looking for a reason to keep my collection tight and lean. I have a whole video, keeping collection lean or whatever, how to keep a lean collection. I'll link that there up above. But like I said, it's all about finding which games you are going to choose to play with your time. We all have limited time. Choose the things that bring you the most joy. Most of these games are games that I enjoy, but not enough when compared to the the competition. Lord of the Rings Journey to Middle-earth, if I didn't have games like Gloomhaven, if I didn't have games like Arena of the Contest, if I didn't have these epic, Too Many Bones, Seventh Continent, if I didn't have a backlog of amazing, incredible games that I love sitting there waiting for me to play them, then I would have kept playing. I would have kept them going on. But I can't, for myself, I can't continue to play a game that feels like homework when I have games that feel incredible. Anyways, that's it. I'm Alex from Board Game Co. You can go ahead and like this video down below. You can subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. Check out my other content. I do a ton of different stuff. I do Kickstarter videos. I do comparison videos, reviews. Although I do less reviews. I'm trying to do other stuff that are more interesting. But hopefully you enjoy my stuff. Let me know down below what you do like, what you don't like, what I can improve. All that stuff. I love engaging with you guys. Always fun. Enjoying this whole process. And until next time, Alex, and have a good one.